Jer X Stitches about all things cross stitch, maybe a few little crafty things kind of wrapped in there every once in a while. I go by Jer X Stitches on Instagram as well, so be sure to follow me over there so you can kind of catch up and see my progress over time. It feels a little bit strange being back. You know, in December I was filming every day up until the 25th. So I was chatting with you a lot, and then, you know, I had my whip parade and my FlossTube at the end of the year with plans, and so I was still like filming quite often, I felt like. And then when 2023 started, like I wanted to kind of get a new rhythm. I thought like maybe a week was too much, or sorry, weekly was too much, but every 2 weeks like really felt like a long time, especially coming off of chatting with you all very often. So yeah, it feels really good to be back. I've missed you all. I know it sounds funny, like this is, you know, for me, when I'm filming at least, a one-sided conversation, but connecting with you all, knowing that you're watching and sharing, you know, your comments and your thoughts, like I've missed that interaction. So thanks for coming back. Quite a few of you found me, I think, during my whip parade or my 2023 plans video. So thank you for watching that and subscribing and coming back. Because I have quite a few new followers, I thought it would be a good opportunity to share just a little bit about me for those of you who haven't gone back to the beginning, so you can know a little bit more about me. So my name is Geraldine, and I am very multi-craftual in general. I've kind of always grown up crafting, doing something, and really like my first biggest craft was quilting. I learned to quilt in high school when I took like an extra home ec class beyond what was required as an elective, and I loved quilting. It's really funny because I quilted. My mom grew up with my mom sewing a lot, but she had never quilted, so we kind of like worked through some of those struggles together as I was learning in high school. And then once I graduated and moved out of the house, my mom actually started quilting, and she's a much more avid quilter than I am now. So anyways, I am a nurse. I have an advanced practice degree, and I support our nursing staff at our local hospital here in the ICU, and I'm a mom. I have a daughter and a dog, and my daughter has a cat, so she calls me grandma sometimes, but she's our cat. I live in the southwest part of Michigan, pretty close to Lake Michigan. I'm actually filming in a slightly different spot, trying to take advantage of the little bit of sunlight that we have gotten so far this month. It's been really, really dark here. Where I live, the lake provides a lot of cloud cover, which actually keeps our winters a little bit more temperate than further inland. But kind of along with that comes the clouds. So I am not born native to Michigan, and so I struggle a little bit with not having that sunlight throughout the winter time. I grew up in North Dakota, and the winters were really, really cold. But you just kind of, I feel like you were just used to it. That's the way it was. And we at least had sunlight, and the snow stayed. So between the snow adding, like reflecting and adding light, and it being primarily sunny, it's a lot different than living here, where we'll get a snowstorm and then it will all melt and just be kind of green/brown and overcast for the most part. So anyways, I'm trying to take advantage both for filming and my physical and mental, emotional well-being, getting a little bit of that sunlight, that real natural sunlight in my eyes. So hopefully this works for everything. And the sun, I think it should be far enough like south because of the time of year that I won't get like a ton of sunlight in this window directly while we're filming. Fingers crossed. I'm just looking down at some notes. So I learned to cross stitch as a kid. I talked about how my mom had a project that she was working on that was a hand charted reproduction of a aerial view of the farm that she grew up on, the homestead, and she lost the actual stitching. No, she lost the pattern. She has the stitching, and of course this was like taped together graph paper with pencil marked legend, or pattern and legend that my godfather made for her, and so I wonder, I need to ask her if she still has it. But anyways, so when she was working on that, she taught me to cross stitch. I don't know that I ever actually finished a project during that time, and then but like I said, I've always loved crafts. Quilting, I taught myself to knit. I learned to crochet as a child and then taught myself to knit kind of based on that. So I'm a continental knitter. I hold my yarn in my left hand when I knit, and then I throw my purl stitches with my finger, and then just kind of general sewing things, mostly related to supporting whatever crafting journey I'm on. So if I'm knitting, I'm making myself project bags. I like to make my own cross stitch project bags and other things that you'll see today and then throughout my videos as well. As far as favorite designers, I would say the one that stands out the most is Modern Folk Embroidery. I'm drawn to a lot of the things that Jacob creates, both his more like traditional sampler pieces, whether they're reproductions or from his head, and also like his more geometric designs. I love that he tends to not use a lot of color, like different colors, right? They're beautiful colors, but it tends to be more minimal. Or he at least designs them that way so that you can kind of make them your own. And so when I need something that's a little bit more chill, I enjoy not having to like change my threads or my colors a ton. I also love, I'm just starting to love heartstring samplery. I have a piece that I started in December, and I'm really enjoying her projects, and there's other plans for her pieces as well. So I'm getting into heartstring, Beth Twist. And then Brenda Gervais with My Needle and Thread. I have one piece of hers that's in my whip pile, but she's just got such, I'm just really drawn to the samplers that she creates and the colors. Rosewood Manor is on the list as well, to kit and start. I'm thinking about a Leo and Roxy floss conversion with that. I think the key will be finding the right pink for that house, which is, I think, a lot of people's, but I tend to like a little bit more bold, a lot of the muted, like if, I think some sampler reproducers, they will have like 2 color palettes, maybe like what the front looks like that's been exposed to the elements in the sun, and then like what if they can get at the back of the stitching, like what the back of the stitching looks like, which is probably more true to the original colors of the sampler. I would probably go with the original colors because I tend to just, I'm not as drawn to muted things. I also don't like to stitch on things that I don't see like putting up or using in my own home. That being said, most of my cross stitching is relegated to my craft room for now. We have a pretty minimalist decor, and so at least for right now, that's just kind of where we're at. Though one of the pieces I'm showing you today, I might try to make a case for putting in my dining room, but we'll see. So yeah, I primarily stitch holiday stuff, Christmas mostly. I'm not a big Halloween stitcher. Don't love 4th of July stuff. Valentine's Day, I have one piece that's kind of Valentine's Day, but it's because I love the piece, not because I necessarily like love Valentine's Day. So it's primarily like Christmas and samplers. And I tend to be drawn to bigger pieces, for better or worse. I think that's where I struggle a little bit with like how many whips I have and what I want to work on versus how long it takes me to finish the things that I love. But I tend to be drawn to bigger pieces. I don't love full coverage. I have one full coverage piece that actually is in timeout technically right now. It's just not my thing. I tend to grab it, and I don't really love changing my thread a lot, and the whole like idea of parking and keeping track of all of those colors with, like when you're doing a full coverage piece, there's like, if you're not looking at it in the right light, some of those colors are almost identical. So not my thing. I do like some themed pieces, so you can't see it, but up above me I have a Downton Abbey piece that I finished last year from Forbidden Fiber Company. I am working on the Black Needle Society Frogwarts retreat box thing, so they're on year 4 this year, so I got my box last week or the week before. That will be in stitching in July. So I have years 1, 2, and 3 done, and I actually have a second year one. It's a long story why I have 2. I have to decide what I'm going to do with that piece. But anyways, I enjoy those kinds of themed stitches as well. I am doing Jacob's Jane Eyre. I Am No Bird. I like reading, and I love like older, like Jane Eyre, Jane Austen type things, and I also like Edgar Allan Poe, so I am also stitching an Evertote conversion of Leela Studios Nevermore. So like those kind of more themed pieces, again, those would probably like mainly stay in my craft room. Some of the book themed stuff I am thinking about putting in our like office library space, if I can convince my husband to let me do that. So that's kind of a little bit about my stitching style, or what projects I like. My favorite floss, you've heard me mention it several times already, it's Roxy Floss Co. I have worked with a little bit of silks, and I enjoy them as well, but I really enjoy Roxy Floss Co. And it's just a much it's great over dye. They have fabulous colors, and I can tell the difference when I'm not stitching with Roxy and I'm stitching on other cottons, especially DMC. And maybe that's just the way I stitch, and it works better for me. Like, your mileage may differ, but I just really enjoy their floss, and I love supporting Caroline and Carrie in the business. They're really great people. My favorite fabric is 40 count linen, but I am starting to gravitate to 36 with 1 strand. I can stitch 36 in the right light with 1 strand and not need, when I say magnification, I prefer to use readers. When I stitch on 40 or 46, I have to put on readers for the most part. I can see 40, but like not confidently enough to feel like I know I'm in the right spot. Like, I'm not 100% I'm in the right spot. Because of my eyes, I have a pretty significant astigmatism, and so I'm not successful putting my readers on alone, like taking these glasses off and putting on my readers. I have to wear 2 glasses because I'm too stubborn to wear like the big magnification light thing, or to actually get, like, no judgment. Me personally, I have this idea in my head of what it means to have a giant magnifier light, because my first exposure to them was like my great grandmother in like her home, in her nursing home, trying to crocheting under one. And I know that's not what it is, but in my head, like, it's just more portable for me too as well, like having a pair of readers versus having, anyways. So that's kind of why like 36 might be my sweet spot, but I am going to the eye doctor this month, and so I'm going to talk to him about maybe having a pair, if it's possible, to have a pair of task glasses that will work well. So I'm actually going to take stitching with me and kind of talk through like what I need, because the downside of readers is if I am, which I typically do, watching TV or watching FlossTube while I'm stitching, I have to look over my readers to like see the other things, where I don't know if he can work that out for me. So to be determined. My favorite fabric dyer, it's Roxy Floss Co. Their linen is beautiful. Carrie does a great job. And then I will say that like their line of linen is fairly small right now, especially when I look for 36 or 40. I think it's just the more popular count. And I think, with the supply shortages of 40 and like the nuances of certain counts and how they dye, Caroline explained to me that 40 count sometimes doesn't quite dye, or because it's so limited, Carrie will often dye the lower counts first to make sure she's got the color that she's looking for right, like the recipe right, and then she'll dye the higher. So sometimes they come out with like the lower count colors first, and then they do have Aida and even weave. I have stitched on even weave, and I have some Aida. I don't know what it is. I think it's a feel thing for Aida, and because I'm so used to linen now, like the idea of switching back and forth is a little daunting, but yeah, so Be Stitch Me, I also really enjoy her linen. She's got lots of colors. I am in her Fabric of the Month Club. I'm in 40 count. I have quite a bit of 40 count now, and so I'm thinking about switching to 36 for that. So haven't made that decision yet, but I'm pondering it. I should probably decide soon, because by February 1st, to be able to get my February fabric to be a 36 if that's what I want. I also ordered Trixie Tricycle just started a linen dyeing business in the Pacific Northwest. It's very sustainable. She has a video where she talks all about it. It's really interesting. Her colors are beautiful, very like natural colors, which I really enjoy. So I did put in an order for some 40 and 36. I don't think I ordered I don't remember what their colors are, but she has like a reddish color and a green. I don't think I ordered those colors, but I think I ordered at least one piece of all three of her like neutrals to get a feel for those, because I tend to not be confident enough in my colors to like know when a color will work other than like a neutral or maybe a blue. So for what it's worth, unless it's kitted. So I'm excited to get that order, but she's shipping, I think she's like 4 or 5 weeks out. So it might be a little bit. Let's see. Okay, my favorite needles. Do I have that? I just had them out of my box of them, and then I put them away. Oh yeah, to be neat while I was cleaning up. Okay, so they don't come this many in a case, but they come in these cases, which I've just been consolidating because these add up. They get kind of bulky to store all of them, but these are, maybe this is a Sullivan Easy Guide ball tip needle. I could get these on Amazon. You have to be careful. Just look at your options and kind of shop around on Amazon, because I've seen some come pretty expensive. Like if you buy one, it's cheaper to buy two. They come two in a box. It comes cheaper to buy 2 boxes of a 2-pack separately than like the 2-pack, if that makes sense. Just depending on the seller. And my local needlework shop also sells these, so that makes that a little bit more approachable as well. When I go in there, I tend to just grab one so that I have a stash. So yeah, ball tips, and I've tried others. Maybe I haven't given them a fair shot. I do gravitate back to ball needles, these ball tip needles, and I'll explain that in the next thing here. So my preferred way to hold my fabric, a hoop or a frame, a scroll rod, that's kind of a trick question because I stitch in hand. So my preferred way is to hold it in my hand. And then I use the sewing method. I am interested to see if I can figure out a Q-snap or a scroll rod method that allows me to also sew in hand for my bigger pieces. I struggle a little bit with how to hold the linen and manage all the fabric. Linen tends to wrinkle, right? And so I feel like not great scrunching it into my hand, especially when it's a really large piece. It's hard to get all the way over to the right side. But rolling it is nice. It just takes, most of the time I roll it with the good side of the stitches on the inside. But it takes a little bit of time for the fabric to kind of learn that memory. Once it learns that memory, it's a lot easier to keep it rolled. I have tried putting a tiny dowel cut to size in my piece to help keep it rolled. It was helpful, but it didn't necessarily keep it rolled any better. Even when I like glued a piece of fabric onto the dowel and then basted my stitching to the fabric, it still didn't really help keep it rolled. Yeah, and then I think the other thing with the dowel is if the piece was really big and I made my dowel really long, then I couldn't like bring it close to me to work at the top because the dowel was like a solid thing hitting, where if it's just a fabric roll, it kind of bends and molds. And that's the other, so I like stitching in hand because I'm fast at it. But also because I don't have to sit like straight and upright with a stand in a very specific spot. I can almost stitch anywhere, and I can kind of like curl up on the couch and like cozy stitch. So yeah, because of that, I do tend to start bottom right and then work up and over, just because when you do the sewing method, it is easier to work right to left. And I don't know, I just prefer the bottom instead of starting in the upper left. Or I'm sorry, the upper right. What's a little bit different about the way that I stitch in hand, I've watched quite a few videos, most of what I know of that's out there on the sewing method. So I cross my X's almost primarily every time before I move to the next stitch, because I stitch so much and over dyed. I do have one piece that I stitch that I'm working on that's DMC only, and I have been enjoying, and it does make the sewing method easier to go one way one direction and the other way the other, and so I kind of figured that out by stitching on that piece. But for the most part, I cross my X's one at a time so I can take advantage of the variegation that comes with the hand-dyed cottons and silks. So what's different though about the way that I stitch is I taught myself, or my mom or whatever, so I start top left, so in Washington, to Florida, which would be bottom right, and then I fit my top leg is California to Maine. So I think all of the people that I've watched show this sewing method. I think Fat Quarter Shop did one with I'm blanking on their names right now. Priscilla and Chelsea. I can't remember their business name. They did one. They do the opposite leg on top. I've watched a few other people. Jan Hicks, same. So moral of the story is I kind of had to take their methods and teach myself my way, like how to move around on the fabric. So I'm curious to know if you are a stitcher that stitches that way, because I don't know if there's many of them out there. And I've looked it up, like they say there's like no right or wrong way which leg is on top, as long as all of them are the same. So, and so I know that a lot of the ones that I've watched as well, they will like reach behind their fabric and move. And if I have to move right from my stitching, more than one space, I do have to reach behind and move my needle like the old-fashioned way, the poke way, and then I can start stitching in hand again. But I have taught myself to stitch left to right, but still in a sewing method. So I've kind of figured out how, because I think largely I stitch in hand, like I can kind of tilt the fabric and get the angle right so that I can stitch a row backwards if I need to. So up and down and right to left is still the best way. So anyways, I am thinking about doing like a sewing in hand video the way that I do it, just in case others can pull up some pointers from that. And it's really just been a process of working on projects and figuring out what works and trying things and kind of building that muscle memory. So yeah, I prefer project bags and floss rings with floss cards or drops over bobbins. I don't love bobbinating. Because I stitch in hand and I like longer pieces of floss, I find that bobbinating puts too many kinks and I have issues with knots. That's the other thing about the sewing method. I think another primary reason I like it is because when I stitch in a frame or a hoop and it's, you know, poking, I get almost immediately, I have a bunch, and I don't realize it, knots on the back of my fabric. When you do the sewing method, you get most of your knots end up on the front, and so you can see them right away and fix them. Like your next stitch, you can't even start because your thread isn't all the way through because you have a knot, and you can see that on the top of your piece. So that's another bonus of that. So I am brainstorming a way to create like a needle parking method for my pieces that have more color changes. I like to use one needle is this kind of been my practice so far, is one needle, and then I like to color complete that strand of thread if at all possible. If there's a ton of counting or I'm like done and there, you know, the next time I need that color is way off, I don't. But I tend to like to color complete as best I can, even if it means cutting my thread and moving a little bit over. There's one piece I'm working on right now that has like identical vases, and then like lots of colors in the plants that come out of that vase. So like my brain is do both of those vases, the bases, and then those little bits of color. If I have that base, then I could do that side and then do that color on the next side and then switch to the next color, to prevent needing to like stop and rethread my needle all the time. And then what do I do with that extra floss? You gotta put it back on the floss card or whatever. So Carrie and Caroline from Evertote, they do a new floss tube that they call Between Two Whips. And they were talking about, Carrie was talking about that she found on 1, 2, 3 Stitch like a magnetic thing that she can write on and, you know, put her thread color so it can organize her needles when she has a project that has lots of color changes. And she was talking about that because she's stitching a piece that I'll talk about later, Turkish Delight, with her conversion. And I thought that was a really great tip, but I was like, how can I do this? And so without ordering something from 1, 2, 3 Stitch, or like kind of spitting off that idea, but maybe making it, because again, I stitch in hand, so I don't have a frame to put my needle minder and all those kinds of things on and kind of like store it, like at least temporarily while I'm working on that piece, or while I'm, you know, maybe I'm setting it aside, but I'm still keeping that piece on the frame. So I created this little book yesterday. It took me like no time at all. This is a piece of, what is it called? I have it behind me. I can't think of it. Like that stiff, like felted, like that you would use for bags, or like the Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch used it in Bozal is what it's called. Like, I know it starts with the B, Bozal. So there's an extra piece of Bozal that actually was from the cut that when I made Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch's project portfolio. So it just has scrap of that, which was great, some scrap fabric, and then I just used a piece of, there's a piece of vinyl here so that I can put, this is a 3x5 index card that I just cut a little bit more narrow that I can write my floss colors on. And then this has a little bit of batting on the inside that I was thinking I could just, so I could easily stick my needle in, or I had a couple of these like rare earth magnet bars that I use on my needle minder board for hanging other magnetic things. And so I took 2 of them. So there's one on the inside and one on the outside. And so I can just stick my needles there. So I'm gonna try that. I like the idea of having in a book. So when I'm done with my stitching for the day, I can close it up and then stick it in my project portfolio. And the threads will be relatively contained, and hopefully not, like the needles won't go all over the place. And you know, what's the point of having them all labeled if they leave? So it looks like these magnets are they're so strong, they're like creeping off the cloth. You see that? So I might have to troubleshoot that a little bit more, or like put it further in. But I haven't put a closure or anything on it yet because I'm trying to decide if I'll need one / what type of closure I'll want. But if I'm just folding this up and sticking it in the like vinyl pocket of my project portfolio, then I think that would be secure enough. So I wanted to show that. Am I monogamous, or do I start all the things? I think that's a mix. I struggle with wanting to start and do all the things, but I pick bigger pieces and they take forever to finish. My eyes are always bigger than my stomach when it comes to stitching. That'll stitch up so fast, and then I haven't learned yet because I'm a relatively new stitcher. I don't think I mentioned that I've only been stitching for a little over a year. I haven't learned how long things really take. So I start all the things, and then I feel really sad that all of the things that I start that I love I neglect because I can't stitch everything. So I'm kind of working through that. And I am thinking about implementing a Sunday stitch. That's a special one to help me kind of get through those bigger projects that I love and have some focused time for them. For my favorite store, it's going to be obvious. It is Evertote, the exclusive shop for Leo and Roxy Floss Co. and fabric. And they make a lot of great project bags, and they kit a lot of projects, with sometimes with linen and sometimes not, with Leo and Roxy Floss. And they do a lot of Jacob stuff. They bring in other designers. They kit Ellen, Maximum Cross Stitch Power Hour. Maximum Cross Stitch is her designer name. They kit her projects. So I just really love that store, and they actually aren't too far from me. They're in London, Ontario. I think it was about 2.5, 3 hours. Was it longer than that? I don't remember now. 3 hours, 3.5 hours drive for me. Not that I drive there. They're an online store, but they do have, occasionally they have open workshop, and I've been to one of those, and it was really great to meet the team in person. I usually, if I'm looking online, it's 1-2-3 Stitch. I have ordered from Hobby House, which I enjoy, and Traditional Stitches. I've ordered a few things from there. The Traditional Stitches, I think, is in Alberta. What I like about Hobby House is that, like, because I don't have a local LNS, like, and I'm not like super seasoned, I don't often know like what I'm looking for. Like, I need to look online. And so, and I'm I think I heard someone call themselves a geriatric millennial. I can relate to that. So I'm just like right on the cusp of being a millennial. And so like the idea of like calling somewhere to see what they have in stock and like talk through on the phone, or like email us and we'll kit you up a project. Like, but like, how much is it? Like just wrapping my head around all of that. Like, is it even, so that's what I appreciate about Hobby House, is they have like an actual like online shopping. I can add things to my cart type thing, but it's still like a local needlework shop that you can support. Not local to me, but it's still a brick and mortar shop that you can support. My local LNS is Country Needleworks, not to be confused with Country Needle, or I think that's what it's called in Wisconsin. They have a small corner of their store that's cross stitching. Since the pandemic has died down a bit, they have, it seems like, I didn't cross stitch before, so I don't know what they had before, but they seem to, over the last year, have been gradually increasing their stock and the things that they're bringing in. But they're also primarily a yarn store. They have some other crafty things, mostly like scrapbook card stuff. But I would say by and large, they're known for being a yarn store, and which is dangerous when you're a knitter and a cross stitcher, because it's hard to walk through past all the yarn to get to the cross stitch stuff and not feel like I need to pick up something from there as well. Yeah, so this is going on a little bit longer than I thought. So FlossTube, who are my favorite FlossTubers. So there's people that, like, as soon as I notice that they've uploaded, like that night, I will sit down and watch them while I stitch, or while other things are happening, while I'm multitasking, essentially. There are some FlossTubers that I love so much that I have to wait until I have protected time. So those are like my FlossTube royalty, because I need to make sure that like there's no distraction. And so I will stitch with them, but I need it to be like, it's stitching where like I'm gonna stop and look and like really like enjoy our time together. So I kind of like lumped it, or like prioritized it in like royalty type, just because I don't know why. I'm just thought it would be fun. So the king of FlossTube is Jacob, Modern Folk Embroidery. He doesn't post often, but when he does, it's always worth your time, and it's always special. And over the holidays, with the countdown box that he did with Evertote and Roxy Floss Co., he showed us that his talent extends way beyond cross stitch and cross stitch design. So those were really enjoyable. My queens, of course, Caroline from, so she has 2 channels. She has her shop channel, Evertote, that she has videos on, as well as she does Between Two Whips with Carrie from Roxy Floss Co., which I really enjoy those two together. They're super fun. And she has Off the Grid Needle Arts, which is her like more personal channel that she started FlossTube on. And then she also has her Friday Off the Grid Facebook group. So she's like my person that like it's special time when there's a video from them. So for my Count and Countesses, I would say Rai McGuy. He doesn't, Ryan doesn't post super often or like at a specific cadence, but when he always has really great things to show. He's just very like calm and like it's like hygge, like it feels comfortable listening to Ryan. And then Ellen is Maximum Cross Stitch Power Hour, is super energetic, and she's got really great ideas and designs, and she's a little bit snarky, and I love that too. So she's really great to watch. And Ellen, like, your hair was beautiful the last video. I don't know what you're talking about. And then Nicola Parkman, I've just started watching her maybe over the last couple of months from Hands Across the Sea. I love her videos. I like watching from like the historical sampler history side of things, and also her voice is just beautiful, right? Like her British accent. So I mean no offense by this title. I gave them this title of Dowager Queens because they are like the old school, especially one of them. She's like the grandma of cross stitch, right? Like she has so much breadth and knowledge and stitching experience. And I just really love watching the two of them banter, and just the way their personalities play off each other is really fun. And so if you haven't guessed, I'm talking about Brenda and Laura the Serial Starter. I watched their first video, and like my husband walked by and he was like, what are you watching? Like, and it's just, you would, if you know, you know, like you just have to appreciate it. And so I love watching them. I get sad when they have something planned, like a retreat or something, and it falls on their every other weekend, because then they tend to not do like a video in 3 weeks. They tend to wait until their next 2-week video, so it ends up being like a month. And I miss them when they don't post for a while. So those are really more of the well-known floss tubers that I really enjoy. There are others that I watch. I do want to try to be better about shouting them out like along my journey. One new to me, not new to everyone else, FlossTube that I watched for the first time recently is the Sunshine Stitchers. Excuse me. I really loved their energy, and they're really funny. And they stitch pieces that are, some of them are ones that I've seen before, and some of them are ones that I haven't. And so I've enjoyed kind of, without it being mirabilia, which I don't stitch right now, nothing wrong with that, just not my preference. Mirabilia or full coverage. I feel like a lot of FlossTubers I watch, they dabble in that, and like these ladies, I don't think they do. They might have a few, but like they just, it's just different stitching than I see from other people, and so I have enjoyed that along with their personality. Yeah, so a little bit about me, so you know like what my goal, like a recap of my goals and plans for 2023. I'm doing 23 and 23, so I can have no more than 23 whips at one time, and my goal is 23 finishes by the end of the year, and those can be all sizes. So I'm really going to count on like my holiday stitching towards the end of the year to really like bust out a few finishes as well. My whip count, so I started 2023 with 17 whips. I started 3 pieces on New Year's Day, so that got me to 20. I decided to restash my Rosewood Manor Spring Quakers, so I showed that in my whip parade. I have it here before I put it away. This is all that I had done on it. This is 32 count, 1/1. The coverage is decent, but I don't love it. It's on brown sugar, fiber on a whim. The fabric is beautiful. Oh, it's getting washed out. You can't see the green in it. I don't know. Like I just felt like I needed to. So I didn't have a very big start on it. And I don't plan on stitching on it anytime soon this spring. So I thought a restash would be appropriate. I'm stitching it with the Leo and Roxy Flossco conversion, but I don't have the linen that was originally kitted for it. So I think I'm going to redo them on 40 count. The part of the reason I wanted to restart it is because I'm like at the very beginning of all 4 pieces. Roxy Flossco has converted, with Evertote, has converted 2. They've converted winter and spring. I have the winter conversion with the catnap. It's the wrong count linen. But the moral of the story is I stitch 36 and 40 primarily. That's what I enjoy. So to stitch a 32 and then commit, I want them all to be the same size. So to commit to that over 4 very large, lots of color change rosewood pieces. Oh, I have the chart so I can show you like what I'm talking about. It's just a big commitment for something that I'm not like 100% in love with. So, and I don't have a very big start. So I decided I'm going to restash it. I'm going to work on finding the right linen in the count that I want, and then go from there when I'm ready to start. So that is that. So that brought me down, what am I at? To 19. And then I've recently had 2 finishes. So I'm down to 17. So I am sticking with it so far. I'm actually moving in the right direction. So we can move into like my standard floss tube now. So I have 2 finishes to show you. The first, I think I'm going to show my little one first. So the first one was a new start on New Year's Day, and I stitched this as my blessing sampler. So Nicola, I don't know who originally came up with this idea, but Nicola on one of her floss tubes talked about how women would start a blessing sampler on the 1st of January, and then if you finish it by the end of January, it like blesses your stitching for the whole year. So this is Emily Ann Foster, and I think I showed this as like a planned start in one of my previous videos. It's a little bit better. This is with Soie d'Alger, the called for Soie d'Alger, and this piece gave me a lot of trouble. I don't know if it was the linen that it's on Fuller Teasel that I got from Hoop and Frame, but I did a lot of frogging. There's a lot of mistakes that I just kind of worked out or made work. When I got, this is a pretty small piece, right? When I got done, it's primarily this darker red color. When I got done, I had 2 strands of silk left. Not 2 like groups of 6, 2 strands. Like I was sweating it towards the end. And I think I did some modification in the color that worked out in my favor, knowing how much I had left. So this, I think, is God, it said God is love. I changed it to blessing, and it was supposed to be in this lighter red, almost pink color. And then I made the 2 and the 3 for 23 in that lighter pink color just to call that out. And then my initial G, it's hard to see in this light, but G and L are in that lighter pink color as well, just to personalize it a little bit. So that is that piece. It needs to get framed and put on my wall. I imagine having an area over the years where all of my blessing samplers will go, assuming I continue to do them. But I did enjoy doing it. I feel like I got a lot of frogging. Since then, I haven't done a ton. I've done a ton of stitching, but I haven't done a ton of frogging, with the exception of last night. But I was working on a border that I thought I knew what I was doing, and it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'm blaming, like, don't stitch. So the moral of that story is I'm not blaming my blessing wearing off. I'm blaming, like, don't stitch borders in the middle of the night. Like, that's just not, like, borders are not tired stitching things. So there's my little tip to you today. Okay, I gotta set my notes down here because this is a big one. So my other finish is, I have a love-hate relationship with this piece. I love this piece. I wouldn't have spent all the time that I did. A lot of this was because I made a commitment in January last year that I was going to finish this piece. I finished it 365 days. I did, as I was finishing it, and I wasn't sure that night if I was going to get it done or not because it was a work night. I didn't realize that I was exactly 365 days. And then I finished and I started taking notes, or I went to my project card to write down my finish date, and it was the same day. So I started 1/10/22 and I finished 1/10/23, And this is the Modern Folk Embroidery 2022 stitch along. I'm going to raise it slow and hope it's in frame because it's so big I can't show you. I can't see and show you. So I told myself I was going to stay caught up all year on this. I got to May, June, and Frogwarts happened, and because it was my first year participating in Frogwarts, I put on myself, not on any, no one did this to me, that I needed to get all 3 pieces done during Frogwarts, which meant I had a ton of pre-work in May and June because I decided to restart my year 1 piece on a different count fabric, a different color, and a different count fabric. And then I didn't get year 2 until like maybe mid-May. It wasn't as fast as I thought I was gonna get it when I initially decided I want to do it. And then to start year 3, like I needed to be far enough along on year 2 to like know where to put it on my fabric, right? Especially as a brand new stitcher, didn't trust my counting. So pretty much part of May, all of June, and part of July was dedicated to Frogwarts. So this, then I was way behind. And it's like 2,000 or 3,000 stitches a month. And then, like, I think in August, I really hit it hard and I tried to get caught up and I didn't. I also had a big kerfuffle here on this border, which ended up being a whole other kerfuffle that I found as I was finishing. But anyways, so I had stitched a lot of this border and had to pull it out and move it over. So I had the months caught up, but I kept telling myself the border is easy. It's super repetitive. I learned it right away. I can just work on that when I feel like it. Well, I didn't feel like it until it was the very last thing to do. And I was grumpy about working on it only because I was like, I'm so close. It's 2023. I should be done. And I'm not. And I'm working on this dumb border that feels like it's going to take forever, but it actually went pretty fast. Like I did like 10 or 15 down here and this whole, almost this whole side in one night, the night that I finished. I did leave all of the Inglejeet's name off at the beginning of the year because I wasn't sure that I wanted her name or not. I couldn't figure out what else I wanted, so I just used her name. I added 2023 there, and then I added my initials, a G and an L there to personalize it. She's done. It's 32 count light taupe, even weave. And I think it's Swigert because it's got like, right. And it is with 2/2 with hand dyed by Rolanda wintergreen. It took me 2.5 hanks of her 50-gram hanks to get this big one done. This piece made 100%, like the choices of fabric made a ton of sense for me in January of 2022. I don't love even weave. Funny, I never thought I would say that. When in January, even weave was where it was at. I was still teaching myself to stitch on linen, so that needs a frame that I can't afford to buy. So I will be making, but it's gonna take like 2 big long lengths of trim. So it's gonna take a lot of work, but it'll be beautiful when it's done. Whips. I pulled out a whip that I started in February of 2022. And I will put a picture in of the project, and then I will pick a picture in of where I was the last time you saw it during my whip parade. And this is how far I am now. So I finished, not all of the red stitching is done, but a lot of the primary like foundational red stitching is done. There's like pink hearts that go here. There's like red fill-in. There's like leaves that go along the heart. But the foundation of the red stitching is in. And then I started kind of on the border because I want to get the border right before I get going on like the birds down here and then finishing in here. So I started with the red because it was like, again, I felt like the foundation of it. But now with that cream and the pink color flamingo that goes in it, I wanted to get those things in before I put like a lot of the fill-in red in, just so that I can manage like the color, like the, not the color transfer, but like the little pieces of thread transfer that can happen when you stitch with a light, really light color next to a red like that. I made this little project keeper. There's foam inside of it, like the stuff that you use for purses, and there's a pocket here that I keep my project card and my little hand project in, and then these little floss cards with like pockets behind to tuck the floss in. It was kind of a prototype that I don't know if I'll ever make again. Excuse me, but that is what it is. Okay, so the other two whips I have to show you are actually new starts. The next one is, I thought about ironing these things for you, but because I stitch in hand and I roll I was like, if I iron it, then I have to like reteach it to roll again. So anyways, this is There's Always Room by Maximum Craft Stitch, Ellen Reed. Using Leo and Roxy floss. One other great tip that I got from Carrie this week, and I think she heard it from someone else, was this piece. I think it's like 16 or 17 different colors of floss that Ellen charted. And it's not all of them need a ton of that color. And so I took my floss string with like all of my Leo and Roxy cards on it. And I pulled off a few strands of each color and put them on my own. I make my own floss straps from like random things that I get, like pieces of cardstock I get in the mail. Or like if a designer, someone sends me a shipment and they put like a little advertisement card in there, I will cut those and make little floss straps. So I made my own, and then I just put like 2 or 3 6-strand groupings on here, and it makes this floss a little bit more manageable, and like it maybe keeps your floss nicer, like because it's not getting, like all of the floss isn't getting like touched and manhandled all the time. So I've really enjoyed this. It's making it easier to find the color that I'm looking for. So I did that yesterday. So Carrie's tip from me to you. Okay, you want to see the stitching? And I'm gonna need my board. I have been not feeling well. I am on my second round, my last day of my second round of antibiotics for a sinus infection that, if you watch my FlossTube, you will know started with a cold, a pretty rough cold back in the middle of December. Cautiously optimistic that this second round will work, but I was still like not feeling good yesterday afternoon. I lay down on the couch for like 25-30 minutes. I woke up and like I haven't had grossness since then. I don't know what happened. Like again, cautiously optimistic. Sinus infections can be notorious for like being hard to get a handle on. So anyways, I'm feeling better today. But moral of the story is I did a lot of couch stitching yesterday. So this was my Friday night off the grid party piece, and then also yesterday. So I finished the border this morning, started on that vase what I was talking about. So I'll get both vases on either side of the house and then kind of work through this stitching. I love this bird. He needs an eye still, but I love this bird and the flower. I have all of the mortar done for the house so I can get that beautiful ochre in when I have a chance to do filling. You can notice I like to work in outlining, and then I can fill in when I don't want to look at the pattern. I have a little bit more chill, so I kind of get all the work in, and then it's like chill stitching. What else did I want to say about this piece? The mortar. I was like, oh God, Ellen, I don't think I've ever completed a house and yet in my cross stitch journey. I'm trying to think. I think that's true. Nope, I just looked over and I have my house from Moonshine Cabin. Okay, so I've never done a house with bricks before. And so I was like, oh, that mortar is going to be a pain. Do I do the mortar? Do I do the bricks? Do I do the mortar? Do I do the bricks? So I decided to start with the mortar. I was like, start with the hardest thing first. I actually really loved it. I was really surprised. Like once I got the pattern down, I mean, there were places like around the windows and the door I had to make sure I was on the right track. But once I figured out like the rhythm of it, I like super enjoyed it. And like I made myself go to bed on Friday night without having it done because there was no way I was finishing it, but like I didn't want to put it down. So that was the bulk of my stitching yesterday, and then I did the roof and the bird, and then I started on the border, and then I almost was going to complete the border last night, and then I had like a mistake over here on the border that then I had to frog it out. Again, the frogging I'm blaming on I was too tired and I wasn't paying attention because it was like a dumb thing that like I knew the pattern and I just didn't pay attention that I didn't put a stitch in where it belonged. I'm gonna have a confession that my borders matched, with the exception I was off by 1 strand, and I have no idea how like I looked. Everything looked right. And I was like, you know, no one's going to know that this one stitch is over 3 instead of over 2. Like the math was right, except for that one little thing. It's like, no, I'm not fixing it. It's gonna be fine. And I just will be really careful not to do things off of the border. I know that I started the border on the right side of the piece over here. So I know that this border is right because it all matched. Even like I had a mistake up here that I checked when it got to the grass. I checked and I was in the wrong spot of where I should be on the border, so I went back and fixed it last night. So anyways, like this I know is right, and then everything I can reference going this direction. I just need to be careful that somewhere over here or something is one strand off. But in the long run, I don't think it'll matter. And I won't tell if you won't tell. So I'm stitching that on 40 count dirty porcelain with the called for Leo and Roxy. I am switching. There's 2 versions of the colors, what was in the chart, and then the errata. And then even in the errata, like I'm not sure things are 100% right. So I'm just kind of making it up as I go in those places where I'm like, is this really what Ellen meant to do? Or maybe she like planned it that way and then didn't go back and update it once she was done stitching. So the model picture has been a really great reference as well. And it doesn't have to be exactly like hers. In fact, I'm really chewing on, sorry, I'm really long-winded today because I just have missed you guys so much. These yellow flowers are satin stitched. I'm not a yellow, I don't love yellow. I love this ochre of the house, but like yellow, I think this is haystack, which is also a great color, but like I'm not a yellow flower girl. So like there's this gorgeous purple, the gorgeous blue, and like there's blue and these flowers here, they're blue and yellow, pointing to the right, these ones. So these big flowers, and then these ones are red. So I'm wondering if like You're My Jam or the blue would look really good in there for the sad stitches. But like that's the last thing I'm going to do. So I'll have lots of time to look and play and see what it looks like once I get the rest of the border in. But again, that's why I wanted to get the border done, is because then I can go in and stitch like all the yellow in a section of the border until I run out of string of floss, and then I can do like the next color because there's multiple colors in all these pieces. Like that was my motivation. And I learned from Modern Folk Embroidery, I don't leave my borders to the end. Not practically the whole thing at least. Stitch them in stages or right at the beginning because I get mad at the piece when that's all I have left. Because I do enjoy the process. I enjoy actually stitching, but I have to see progress happening, and I have to feel like there's an end in sight, and I have to like be able to move on. So the other whip that I have is my Modern Folk Embroidery. Okay, so I didn't show you. This is my Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch tutorial project folder binder thing. So I made it with 2 vinyl pockets with a pocket behind so I can put my charts in it. I'm kind of particular. I like to have working copies of my charts, but I don't for whatever reason for Ellen's. It's simple enough. I feel like I haven't had to mark things off yet. There's been a couple times where I thought about running downstairs and making a photocopy, but because I don't want like my original to get nasty, I put it in some page protector things just because. And then I made myself, and I know like these are not my images, they're Ellen's, but I'm sure she won't mind, and they're just for me. I'm not selling them or making them for anyone else. Maybe I should make one for her. It's a little cabochon of a picture of the house from the pattern that I just printed and punched and glued in there, and then I have that as a zipper pull for that project. And I did that for a few of my projects, because when it's not in a clear vinyl like this, it's in a project bag, and I don't have a ton with clear vinyl fronts. I like the fabric bags, so I use it as a zipper pull, and then I can remember what's in that project bag. So I'll put in a picture of those here. I took a picture while I was making them. Okay, so my first project folder I ever made that I pretty much just designed myself, I made this out of the foam instead of the bosal. I would recommend the bosal over like that thicker foam that's like iron on both sides that you would use for making a bag. I had some of it because I had bought some to make those like book cover things forever ago, back before I was stitching. Now I have a few that I use as project folders, but they're nice to like tuck your books in, your hardcovers, and protect them. Okay, so Modern Folk Embroidery 2023, Reaching Skyward. You probably mostly all know what it looks like. It's this one. I am using Leo and Roxy Amaretto and Seize the Day, which is a spin off of the Evertote recommendation, which was Great Lakes, which is I think a little bit darker than Seize the Day. And this is where I am so far. This is the option 2, the alternate alternate border for the top. I don't remember if this is 1 or 2. The top corners, they're the same. I really liked this border once I figured out that I could like stitch the zigzag through the middle to help with counting. Because I stitch right to left, the repeat for the chart, for this chart, it was just a little chunk that's the repeat. It started on the left, and so I used the cover to look and see where Jacob had charted that that border to start in the repeat, which wasn't at the end or the beginning of the repeat. And so I like put that solid line in of the amaretto and then started where I needed to and then worked kind of that way. So I know someone was asking, like, it doesn't repeat right. It doesn't if you start somewhere else. So it'll be interesting. There's quite a few pieces on option 2 that I like, but like they're all like little pieces of repeats unless it's a motif. So it will be interesting to work through that, and it'll be a little bit of an extra challenge as I work through this. So just something to keep in mind if you're deciding to deviate. You kind of have to weigh, you're going to have to do some math or pay better extra attention. I notice here too, when I've been working on this dark blue border, I stitched 9 and skipped 1, and I've been actually matching it to the 10 grid on the charts, so that as I count down later, I will have it match the lines on the chart, and I'll go back in and fill it later, and it'll be quick to get that filled in. So I did it for like the bottom of the border, and then I remembered that like there was another one, and I wasn't sure how much I would love them, I would want them later or not, and so I decided to keep them in because I can't take them out. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to. So that will hopefully help me as I go along. This is a 36 count porcelain linen from Leo and from Roxy Floss Co. And I love it. I love this piece. It's easy to work on. It's actually easier than I thought. My brain has been struggling a little bit with like stitching the negative. But I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. I've definitely got the hang for the most part of the pattern, and I can look at like the pieces around it to like know like what I need to stitch for that little triangle. But I love that I don't have to wear extra glasses. So this has been, I'm really happy so far with my decision to use 36, because I almost bought 40. To use 36 so that it would, because I knew it was like a full year long-term project, I wanted it to be as approachable as possible. My plan was to finish January's this weekend, but then I just started stitching There's Always Room, and I just was like, I'm on a roll, I don't want to put it down. So there you go. Maybe I'll get to it today, maybe I won't. I might need to, not that I enjoy stitching on it, so I don't want it to sound this way, but like I might have to make myself work on it today, because I think once I pick it up I'll love it and feel better about having it caught up. But anyways, okay. I want to talk a little bit about plans. So the Turkish Delight is still calling my name, and I've almost started it a couple times in the last 2 weeks. I feel better knowing that my Blessing Sampler is done and Modern Folk Embroidery 2022 is done. I've been telling myself if I finish January 2023 Modern Folk Embroidery that I can start it. I've been telling myself if I finish There's Always Room I can start it. I think I just need to start it. So now that I quick whipped up my little floss keeper, my needle keeper, I think I need to start it. So I might start it today. We'll see. I'm glad that I waited. Like, so the other reason I want to start it is because Carrie decided during the FlossTube video, maybe Caroline decided, I don't remember how it went. Caroline came up with the hashtag. I think Carrie called it a sal, and Caroline was like, wait, what? Like, we put the floss packs in the shop. Is it a sal? And she's like, well, anyone can stitch it. Of course, anyone can stitch it with me if they want to. So Carrie, I'm going to stitch it with you. You're way ahead of me. I don't know if I'm going to catch up or not. It doesn't matter. But thank you for getting a head start on it, because a couple things that she's learned. One, there's a lot of color changes. That's the needle thing. Two, starting in the top with all the alphabet is great, but you don't get a lot of bang for your buck in regards of like really appreciating and understanding her beautiful conversion of the piece. And she said that someone else that she follows started in the middle with that middle medallion. I should probably get it out instead of just talking about it. So I'm going to start in the middle, which I almost never do, because I want to really get excited about it and see. So this is the piece. The conversion is very different because Carrie did her conversion for a more neutral fabric and really play with the colors from the piece. The stitching is beautiful. So I'm going to start that center medallion maybe today. Oh, and I love Great Lakes. I love those like almost black dark blues, Great Lakes and Seize the Day. And that is what that whole like the geometric outline part of it is. And like these greens and turquoises are like chef's kiss. I can't wait. The colors are beautiful. So for better or worse, because it's got a lot of color change and that's not my thing. So I'm gonna have to know that like this is the piece that's gonna require patience. It's gonna like I can't have too many expectations for this piece and getting it done. Like I'm probably gonna have to take it in bite size. But I think having something that I love in the middle will be good motivation. So thank you for those tips, Carrie. The hashtag Caroline came up with is Carrie's Rosewood Delight. I haven't tried hashtagging it. They kind of spiffed it in the middle of the video, hoping that it didn't, you know, come up with anything rude when you actually put the hashtag in. And my conversion card fell. I need to glue that to the back of my project card. So I did make a medallion. Carrie, I need to make you and send you one of these because it's actually a picture of Carrie's stitching that I got from Instagram. And then because I wanted her colors, and I put it in a cabochon so that I would have that as a label for my project. But I do need to print one and send it to Carrie. So yeah, that's a part of my plans. I want to get Isabel's heart done because I feel like once Valentine's Day is over, I'm gonna like forget about it. That one's on a 28 count blank slate. It's really easy to stitch like on the go, during my lunch break, in the car. I don't spend a ton of time in the car where I can stitch. There's really only like one weeknight a week, and that will be over in the next month or so. But when I sit down, it's just easy. Like it's easy. So I just need to keep working on that. Next week is 24 hours of cross stitch. I plan on, doing that as best that I can. So that should be an opportunity to get some good stitching in. What else? Hibernation Day has been haunting me. I have not worked on it since December. Oh, I made a little, I see, I gotta show you all the things. I did some stuff this week. So I made a little, so I can't decide. I want my pieces to be multi-purpose. Where's my board? Oh, it's on my lap. Sorry. So I, again, took a picture of the pattern and made a cabochon, and then I made a little like zipper pull or a needle fob, scissor fob. So I have a lobster clasp on it for going through a zipper, or a little tiny ring for a scissor fob. So depending, but it's got, I did like a poinsettia because there's like flowers in there in the piece, and then a red and a green and a white little charm. So these are really fun and relatively easy to make. myself. So, and I actually just took all of the pieces that I wanted a cabochon for, and I took images and put them on one Word document, kind of guesstimated the size that I needed. And then I just happened to have a paper punch that is the perfect size for those cabochons. So, so right now it is the zipper pull for my Evertote project bag. And I will show you where I'm at real quick, even though it's the same as when you saw it last. I love this piece. It's all rolled up. I love this piece. I'm stitching it on Panettone with the Leo and Roxy with this really bright color conversion. You can see I got a dowel in there like I talked about. And I have to roll this from the bottom because it's just way too long to roll it from the side. So that's been working for me to start at the bottom and work up. And I really might, there's a ton more stitching that needs to happen here. My goal was to work up to the houses to get those filled in so that there's just repetitive, easy stitching on this piece for when I have time to work on it, like maybe at a retreat. I believe this is 40 count, so it will require special vision and good light, but I love this piece and I want to get back to it. For sure, I wanted to stitch on the 25th. I might add that to my list for my 24 hours of cross stitch. The other piece that's haunting me that I have like zero start on, because I started it on Christmas Day and did like one strand of stitching and then went, oh, maybe this could be my blessing sampler, but it can't because I didn't start it in 2023. Anyways, so it's the Modern Folk Embroidery, the bonus pattern that we got with our Evertote kit. So it is Dream of Winter Garden. And I like would show you, but it's like, it's on the Panettone that was left over because I had 40 count, so I had left over from that. And then it's like this one row of blue, like a bluish color, or 'Tis the Season maybe? I don't remember. No, it wasn't 'Tis the Season. It was like it was almost like Great Lakes, but it was named a different color. Anyways, I love that piece. I love the colors in that piece. I want to get back to it. And then one more thing that's like kind of in plans, but like I don't have a plan to restart it. So I'm counting this as my whip, as a whip still, because I'm like actively working on restarting it. It is my Ink Circles Dog's Declaration. It says Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Squirrels. This is again like another like big piece, lots of color changes. Doing this in memory of my Yorkie that passed away last spring. Oh, where did this needle come from? Eek. Okay. So I'll show you my start on it. This is the piece, my one piece that's on, it's 25 count from Forbidden Fiber. That I have in a Q snap because I have to use a stand for it because I learned that I can't, and I didn't know before I started, that I can't use the sewing method for 1/1 stitching. So if I'm gonna stop, this is probably a good place to stop instead of keeping going. And the reason I don't touch this piece is because I don't want to stitch where I have to like sit all prim and proper and have everything all set up with the frame. I also feel like I maybe want it to be like a little bit bigger, so I'm not going to stitch it on like 28 count. I think the called for is 36. I also had, so I didn't have the this is a Valdani that's called for. I didn't have Valdani. I had kitted it up with like Classic Color Works and Gentle Arts flosses. I didn't love my conversion. I really struggled with like the animal colors and like how they also made sense for the other things. I've gotten a little bit more comfortable. Oh, this Evertote squirrel bag is like 100% totally appropriate. I had to buy it when I saw it just specifically for this piece. So I've got this like stash of Roxy Floss Co. floss because I'm in the floss club, and like when you buy one floss you gotta get more, and there's just lots of reasons why I have lots of Roxy Floss Co. floss. So because why not? It's beautiful is the main reason. So I decided I was gonna do a conversion. I didn't quite have the browns that I needed. I probably do, but they're like in other kits or stash or whatever. And I need a lot of the brown for the words here, right? So I worked on a conversion. It's not 100% set in stone. When I went on to do my linen order to restash my winter Quaker, and my, I think I have my spring Quaker fabric picked out, but my winter Quaker blank slate, I wanted to get a 40 count for. Anyways, I ordered a couple different browns because like some of the animals, it has to be like the right color. But I think so I did this in the dark after the sun went down, which was still not like late at night or anything. So I wasn't sure about the colors, but now that the sun is out and I'm looking at them in the daylight, I am a fan. These are the colors that I picked. This is sangria. I don't know why I remember that. It's like the brightest red that I have in all of this. This is actually probably belongs over here because it's like accent color. This mulberry, I have a couple strands of it. I think that I want to do the words in mulberry instead of brown. The only thing is the words are, the L's are tree trunks, but I think with all the way it like works with all the colors, I think it will work. I think it will look okay. I do have, I think, some truffle coming, but like I also see that I would start with the words on the piece and then do the rest. So, and then it would just be motifs to fill in then from there, like a little at a time. So again, not 100% set on this conversion, but I think I'm pretty happy with it. And then remember that December Bestitch Me, that's coming up fairly true. It might be a little bit washed out. Yeah, it's a little washed out. It's a little brighter than that, but that summer, that Bestitch Me order or club piece from December, that was like, I really like this, but I don't know what I'm going to put it on it because it's a little bit brighter, a little more orange than I'm used to. It's called Honey. It's a 40 count. Yeah, sold, done. So this is going to sit out a little bit longer until those flosses come. And then I might not even marry the colors. I might just like marry the letter colors and then I can work on rest. So I don't know when I'm going to restart. I'm still going to count it as a whip and count my start back from when I started it back in May last year. I think that's how that works. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm not like putting it away in my stash like I plan on. Like it's still counting it as a thing I'm working on. So yeah, that's my other plan, and little project. This is super long. I'm sorry. Thanks for sticking with me. Take it in chunks if you need to. I just have haul. So the haul that I can't show you because it's on its way. Oh no, I was gonna go out to the mailbox. We didn't go to the mailbox yesterday. I have a chart in the mailbox. I'll show you next time. I have this giant bag of haul, box of whatever, not bag. Sia's for Coffee is in the mail. It should be here next week. That is the next Stitching with Caroline stitch along that I ordered from Evertote. That is starting February 14th or 15th. So Caroline said this week she's not going to do videos every day, maybe like every other day and just check in and do crafty things, but it'll be fun that she's like something to like actively work on with her. Okay, Evertote, holiday colors. I got some extras. 'Tis the Season. Nope, can't help it. I lied. Frosty Fern, Pine and Dandy. 2 Cindy Lou, mostly because I was wondering if this would end up being my house for Rosewood Manor, or Winter Rose Manor, sorry. It might be too pink, but that's okay. Deep Dive. This is the color I was talking about that I had started for my Dream of Winter garden. I love, 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 love this color. We'll see how I feel at the end of the year after I stitch that whole Modern Folk embroidery piece. But for now, so these will go, I think the Cindy Lou will probably go in my stash because I don't need that much pink for Christmas stitching, but the rest of these are going to go like in my Christmas stitching bag with all of the other holiday collaboration floss extras and leftovers, so that because I think that's be a really fun place to go to get easy floss conversions for stitching next winter, next holiday. Sorry about that. So this is like in no particular order. This is the fob that I ordered that from Traditional Stitches that goes along with their Lucy Barber exclusive, which is their stitch along for 2023. It's a limited edition thing where if I don't get it now, it might not be available when I want to stitch it later, and it's beautiful. So I got the key fob, the scissor fob, and the chart, and this thing is a doozy. It is thick. Lucy is, where is it? 274 by 317. So I got the chart and the scissor fob, and then had to have the linen and the floss that's called for. So I put another order in with Traditional Stitches. They emailed me back that they'll be able to ship as soon as they're waiting on another shipment of the Tabby Catwood Smoke. That is the called for. So when that comes in, they will send me a bill and send that to me. Confession time. Martha Evans, the Brenda of Brenda and Laura birthday Sal chart from Martha Evans is from the Scarlet House. She released it for this, particularly for Brenda's stitch along for her birthday. So I said I wasn't gonna buy it. I almost bought it like 3 or 4 times. I still said I wasn't gonna buy it. I might have ordered it from Traditional Stitches with my extra Lucy Barber stuff. So they have the chart. They're gonna send me, when they send me the rest of Lucy Barber, they're waiting for the SWA. I want to do it in SWA 103 and our SWA 103. Most places are out of that. I thought Traditional Stitches would be like the place that I would be able to get it because it's from Canada. So I thought maybe ordering it from Traditional Stitches would be easier, or I'd be more likely to get them. They're also waiting for a shipment, and they think it's going to be like 4 to 6 weeks. So, which is fine, because I wanted to have it. I thought about maybe starting it along. I don't know that I will, because I'm really trying to be careful with what I start, especially big pieces like this. But I ordered it anyways. Naughty, naughty, naughty. Okay. So I think I talked about this in my plans video. I ordered the Spring and Stars Hollow box from Black Needle Society a while ago. I can't participate in the retreat much, maybe just the first night, because I'm going to Stitch North that weekend, but I still wanted the box because I wanted to stitch the pieces, and I'm too impatient to wait till they all come out all together. So summer and fall are already out. Fall is on the Black Needle Society website. You can just order that one. Summer, I had to wait until they made it available to the box subscribers for the year. So I have the summer now, just waiting for the box. And then before I get the threads for this, Forbidden Fiber came out with fall and summer. That's right, sorry. So I have fall and summer flosses from Forbidden Fiber Co. because these are mostly weeks overdyeds and then a bunch of DMC. And so I'm gonna do Forbidden Fiber instead for the overdyed. So I'm waiting for her to come out with spring so I can order those too. And then, because the thread list came out, and then I can get the DMC as well. But I have no plan to start. I mean, I have fall kitted. I have summer. I think I might even have the DMC for it. I'm not 100% sure. But it's like it's not kitted up yet. It's just I have everything. So I don't know if I'm gonna start it. I don't know. So anyways. For Christmas, my husband bought me, it's a ragtag box. Spot Colors is the company. And so it's like a little monthly cross stitch club book. This is there's 3 versions. This was the main pattern for this month. Rest is required. And so it comes with Ada, a hoop, which I'll probably just use for finishing maybe at some point. And then the floss colors and a needle. So cute little kit. I don't know if I'll do this one or not, but it's just fun. My husband said, you know, even if you don't love the patterns, like it gets you a little bit of like monthly supplies and like something fun to look through. So that is that one. What is this? Okay, so Fat Quarter Shop. I was ordering Bozal. I put it behind me because it's sitting behind me. Bozal for my my project folder, and they had some fabric. So this is 36 count cappuccino fiber on a whim. So I had to have it. It was a reasonable price. So speaking of Forbidden Fiber and Gilmore Girls, I was on there looking to see if she had the spring floss pack yet. And I've looked at this a million times. She had the Raining Lorelai's kits, and I think they were on, maybe they, don't quote me, I think they were on sale. So it is like the whole, you can't see it in the bag, but it's like the fabric and the floss. The floss is beautiful. There's one that's like hand painted or specially dyed to be like all the colors in the floss pack, like all in one piece of floss for some of the borders, which is really fun. Back to Fat Quarter Shop, Lori Holt's Unstitcher. I have one that I've been using that I keep with my stitching. This one is my, because I always have to have two in case I lose one. I've been really enjoying that and using that. Evertote had some like curated kits on. I don't know if they were on sale or I just had a moment of weakness. This is Cranky Owl. It was the Dark Crosses release, but Caroline had a little bit of linen, and so it came as a set. So this is 40 count in the linen color. Oh, jeez. It's called Cranky Owl. It's this like beautiful browning color. So because it's 40 count again, like I only need a quarter of this to stitch this owl. So I think I'm probably gonna dive into my stash for like little like cut pieces to do the Cranky Owl and save that. I don't know, it's a special cut. I'm not quite sure what, I measured it. I don't remember what the dimensions are, but I'm probably gonna save that for a piece that needs more space. So in the spirit of embracing 36 count, this is a newish color from Roxy Floss Co. called Grunge. So this is a 36 count linen. It's gorge. It's like a little bit deeper Billie Jean, which is what their holiday collaboration, the Be Merry All chart was on, or was the called for it. And then this is a new color as well. It's the name is apt. It's pretty. It's just very different. It's called Odd Duck, and it's quite variegated. There's like brown and green and tan and yellowy tones. It's pretty gorgeous, and 36 count. So I think it'll be, even though it's a little bit darker, I think it'll be relatively easy to stitch on. Famous last words. Sorry about all the chaos behind me. And then Black Needle Society. I didn't watch a ton of like Nice List box on unboxings or openings. That is where they do 25, I think, things, 24 or 25 things to count down, stitchy things for in December. I almost bought the box when it was available. You had to order it like super early. It was quite expensive. I decided not to. I think I'm happy with that decision. They had some fun stuff, but like nothing I couldn't live without. I feel like my tastes are changing a little bit, and like I love Frogwort and like the Gilmore Girls stuff, but like I like the Black Needle Society. I really enjoy their retreats. They're like monthly boxes. They're like a 50% for me, like things I love and things I don't. And so I think for me, because I want to spend, because of how I choose to spend my stitchy money, I try to just grab things out of the vault when they go up, once I see like what's in the box. I don't necessarily need like the surprise. I've done a few boxes, don't need the surprise. I would rather kind of see and pick and choose. Anyways, long story short, they're nothing against Black Needle Society, because I do love the things that they come up with. So in the spirit of loving all things like old school literary, the one thing that I had to have that I couldn't live without, and I expected it to be a lot smaller. I thought it would be like a more like normal size project bag, but it's like their big vinyl pouches. It is this bag. It says Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents, and that is what Amy March says when they take all of their Christmas dinner to the Hummels, because they are hungry and cold, and so like that is their present, like their giving is what really made their Christmas. And so this is a picture of all of the March girls from Little Women opening the letter that they get from their dad, who is away fighting for the North in the Civil War. So I love Little Women in all of its versions, book and the million different movie versions. All of them are unique and have their pros and cons. But I actually just read, like, I think I read the abbreviated version when I was younger, but I read like the full unabridged version a few years ago, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm super excited to have this, and now that I've shown it to you, I can figure out what I want to do with it. Goodness gracious. This might be a winner for the longest video ever. Maybe this means I shouldn't be waiting 2 weeks if I can help it. But I just appreciate all of you watching my video, liking, take time to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, start some conversation in the chat about what you're working on, what you liked, any tips or tricks that you have. Let me know if you're one of those people that their top leg is California to Maine, which would be bottom left to top right, because I don't know that there's many of us out there, and I'm curious if you're one of them. So yeah, take care. I hope you're all well. Happy stitching, and I will see you soon.